Hi everybody, my name is Jan. I'm teaching assistant in Stockholm Business School in finance, and today I'm going to teach you some basic Excel tutorial. During this tutorial I'm going to show the very basics of formulas, of how to input data, how to calculate, and give some tips of how you can arrange the data so it will be readable and nice for us to check. So let's start. Very quick recap. You can type in data, just writing in something and pressing enter and it will stay. As well, you can delete it by pressing the delete button. To illustrate how you can use Excel in your studies and for finance purposes, let's say a case example, which is quite common. Let's say you invested 1,000 crowns, euros, dollars in bank for 1 year at 10%, and you would like to know how much money you're going to get at the end of the year. So to calculate it with Excel, you firstly have to press on you have to specify the cell you would like to you would like to see the result. So let's keep it A1. Then you press equal sign. It's quite important to start all the calculations with equal sign, because otherwise Excel will not recognize it as formula. So then you type in 1,000 because we invest, or we deposit 1,000 crowns with the bank on 10%, or 10%, or it doesn't matter. And then you press enter, and then you have it, and then you have the total amount of your balance at the end of 1 year. But the problem with such notation you use here is that if, for example, you made mistake, or the data changed, let's say the interest rate changed, not from now it's not 10% but let's say 12%, so you have to actually go and manually change it in the function. And now imagine that you have not only one function, in this case, which is not so big deal, but you have more than one function, let's say 10, 20, 30 functions, and go and check it them manually is not so nice. So instead, I suggest you to create a table with this input data, and then link the formula to the input data. The other reason why this notation is not good, because virtually this number doesn't say us anything. It may be investment, it may be bank deposit, it may be something else, and surely we know what it is, but it doesn't mean that the person outsider will understand what is written in here. So it's quite important to label, name, comment all your results. I will get a little bit more on commenting at the end of the video, but for now I will show how to introduce an input table. So let's say we have three inputs: number of years, initial deposit, and interest rate. So let's start from interest rate. We write interest rate, then deposit, and number of periods or years. So our interest rate was 10%, it's 1,000, number of years 1. So now it's much easier to understand, but you can see that here interest rate is not visible fully, so you press in between A and B, you see there is when these signs appear, and it automatically adjusts the width of the cell. So now it's much better, but still, if you have quite a lot of these tables, it would be hard to distinguish between them. So we suggest once you have table, you usually select it and use borders or use grid. But even this may not be enough, and while you use grid, it may be hard to distinguish between tables. So what I usually prefer, I prefer adding a heading or naming the table and adding the bottom line, which actually shows that it is the end of the table. Then it's easier to distinguish between tables. So to name the table, you need one more row. To insert a row, you go in here and you see the black arrow. You can actually do the same thing when you select the columns, but now we need one more row. You go in here, you press insert, and the fully clear row is inserted. So now we write in here input data, and I prefer, if this is the name of this table, I prefer doing merge and center, but be really careful with this, because what it does, it merges the selected cells into one, but this cell, as you can see here, it's cell number A1, not B1 and not C1, and virtually B1 and C1 is deleted. So if you will use these for actually inputting some numbers from merge and center, be really careful of tracking the cell in formulas. And at the end, you say merge and center, and then add some grid. So then what I suggest you, what is usually nice, and I find it nice, is coloring the end and the beginning. But please do not color it with black, because you will not be able to see anything. So now we will calculate the final result, which is end year balance. So now we will do the final result, the table for final results and year balance, and we will double click because we're going to use only two of them, like this, and so end year balance. So now you know that to make any calculations you need to press equal or equal sign. But as I previously told you, you need to link this formula to the cells. So it's done quite easily. You just press on the cell and it appears B3. It appears here. What it means, you ask Excel to use the value of the B3 cell in the calculations, and you multiply it by 1 plus interest rate. We're going to use simple percents, so that's why we may multiply the interest rate by the number of periods, and voila, we have calculated. So now when we need to change the input data, we shall not go and change it in the formulas. We just go and change it in here. So for example, 3 years and 12%. And Excel recalculates everything automatically. Now let's think of continuous compounding, which is basically at the end of each period you reinvest the whole balance, and the interest payment are going to be made on the new balance. So let's type end year balance. You see the Excel finishes it and write it here and deposit multiplied by 1 plus interest rate, and now we need to power it to the number of periods. We use annual compounding, so we need to power it to 3. To power it, we need to use the symbol like this, and then press, and then put it here, and press the cell you would like to power it to. I would also like to note that this power function, it's quite powerful in one way, because it's not only rises the number 2 power, but also it can find root of any order. So for example, if you write 1 over 2, it will virtually find a square root, and 1 over 3 and so on. But for this purpose we will use years. Yep. And that's it. This is for final result table, and we continue with another example of how Excel may be useful for you. So now let us think if you want to know your balance of your deposit during the following 20 years. So you go in here, you type years and deposit and balance, and let's call it cumulative balance. Cumulative balance. Yeah. Here 1, the first year, and usually you can go, if it's not so many years, you can go right in 2, 3, 4, 5 and so on. But when you have 20, 100 or more, then it's not so easy to do and it's not so big fun. So what I suggest you doing is write an equal sign, 1 plus the previous cell, then press enter, then you go back. You see there is a black rectangle here, so you go in here, and when you point at it, your pointer becomes the black cross. So you press the left button and you go down. Oops, 21. If you go a little bit up and we want just 20, you press on the red rectangle or on the black rectangle and go a little bit step up, and that's it. And we will select this, also select these two things. So our balance will calculate with compounding, so that we actually need to write this kind of formula for 20 times, which is also not so good, not so big fun. But there is a shortcut. We can lock the cells, and I will show how to do it. So you go in here, you press 1 plus interest rate power to number of years, and you press enter, and voila, you have it. But if you try to scroll it down, so it's like extended the formula, it will result in a bit weird stuff. So you see that these cells, they move down, and basically you can try to move it up, but it's not really cool. What I suggest you doing instead, it's locking the cells. So if you want to lock the cell, you press F4 and you see dollar signs appears. So what it actually means that you lock B column and 3 and row number 3. If you press F4 once more, it will lock only row. So what it means? Oh, oops. So what it means that you can still drag down and everything will work fine. Yeah, it's changing because I haven't locked the interest rate. But as you can see here, the deposit is stayed the same. But if you would move the other any side, right here, you can see that the blue thing from the deposit moved to years. So this is what actually implies locking row, and the same applies to cell and to column. So now we just lock this. Yeah, we can keep it. We can keep the lock of the row because we're going to swipe it down, not in the any other size. There we go, and done. And you can see here and here that sometimes decimals are more than 3 decimals. We encourage you to use only 2 decimals because it's easier to interpret, it's easier to read, and it's just easy to see, and it's more neat, I think. So here to decrease, you go in here to decimal, to decrease decimal in the number section of the home page, and you see if you press now you press and did the trick. It's because here in the first selection in 1120, there is no decimals at all. So the Excel says, come on, I cannot decrease it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it's not. So what you have to do, you have to press increase decimals, and it actually adds 1 decimals and counts all the decimals here. And then you increase one more time, and you have it. Also pay attention that here you don't want to see it, so you can go and do the borders, but what is easier to do, you go in clear and clear formats, and then it's cool. So now let's say you want to find the whole sum of the balance, of the cumulative balance. Don't know why you would like to know this, but it's just for demonstration. So you type in sum, and you start where you select, and you swipe it down, and then you close the parentheses. And it's quite important to always close them. Like sometimes Excel may help you to enclose by itself, but sometimes it may just a bit play the tricks with your data, so you can have a wrong result. So be really careful with parentheses. And you have it, and this is our final result, what we wanted to show. Also about commenting, please do not use commands things like this, my comment, or writing some note 1, think over something. It's okay when it's like this, but it's not okay when you have more information. My suggestion is instead to use here in review section you have commands where you can command the cell. So here you can say it's compounding balance, compounding compounding balance, and here you can specify how you calculated it. Simple interest, and not simple interest. compounding. And this thing is kind of not okay, so I will mark it here red. Usually the more you comment on what you are doing, the more you understand what you are doing, and the more easier for us to help you with your Excel or even to check it, and for other teachers or professors. So what I would really suggest you, comment as much as possible, but please do not do comment for each of the cell, compounded interest, compounded interest. Like this is okay, like this, when you comment only the name, we will understand that actually it applies for all of these numbers. Also, if this is concerning like short commands like this, surely if you have like really notes, it's better to use the text area instead of writing it like this. So you go to insert, go to text box, and select the area you want to put it in, then you put it in, and what I recommend you is go to format and make borders so we actually can see it. So then you type notes and name it note 1. It is note 1. And ensuring that you're using a kind of this structure. I'm not saying that this is the only structure you can use. Until you use the structure so that it's clean and easily understandable, it's okay. If you are not sure if somebody else can understand or figure out what you have done, it's better to comment more and make it more clean. Maybe you would like to put the cumulative balance on another sheet instead of plotting it on in the same sheet, I mean. So this is This is it, and I would like to wish you good luck for the day and with your studies. Hey, though.